Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about Dak Prescott. And one main reason we're going to be talking about Dak Prescott is that my Dallas Cowboy videos have been doing exceptionally well. I cannot thank you guys enough in terms of how well those videos are doing in terms of views. But I'm not trying to be money grubbing here. I'm not trying to, squeeze this limit for as much juice as I can get. I'm just going to get into Dak Prescott because there's a lot of talk about, was last year a fluke? Because you have two opinions on Dak Prescott. You have people who talk about Dak Prescott like he's a fluke. It was a run heavy offense. What else are the other sort of things? Ezekiel Elliott and the offensive line are so great. Any rookie quarterback could do well if they were behind that type of offensive line. All that kind of stuff gets talked about when it comes to Dak Prescott. I'm not denying the fact that he does have a very good running back, and he does have a very good offensive line, if not one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, as I mentioned in my previous videos on the matter. But when you actually look at Dak Prescott's data coming out of high school and college, he hit the Pro Bowl thresholds in high school and college. And not only that, his rookie season was historic in many ways based on his data. For his age. So we're going to be getting into that. We're going to be getting into what he looked like in terms of his data coming out of college, what he looks like at the NFL level, and kind of dispel some of the sort of criticisms of him and why they're a bit false, in that he has many more things in common with Russell Wilson from a data perspective than he does RG3. So, maybe another, or Nick Foles, or whatever kind of quarterback you want to think of, who was kind of a fluke, kind of a one-year wonder kind of guy. Dak Prescott is a little bit better than those guys, not a lot better. So we'll be getting into some of those things. And the main things I wanted to get out of the way just before we get into the numbers is the metrics we're going to be using today. Some of them are very self-explanatory, so I won't really explain those. But the two big ones is high school production score and FBS production score. The high school production score essentially takes the completion percentage measured against peers and the touchdown to interception ratio measured against peers combined. That gives you that score. So essentially, the higher your touchdown to interception ratio is, plus your higher, your completion percentage, the higher your completion percentage is, the higher the score you get when it comes to your high school production score. And then when it comes to the FBS score, it measures the same things in terms of touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, but it adds a layer of strength of schedule to where if you had a really good touchdown to interception ratio and completion percentage against a very tough schedule, you score higher on that metric than a guy who plays in like the MAC or the AAC or whatever and has a similar sort of touchdown to interception ratio and completion percentage. So the FBS score just takes into account strength of schedule, while the high school production score doesn't. And the only reason why it doesn't take into strength of schedule with the high school production score is because I don't really have a way to really judge strength of schedule at high school yet. I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet. But the bottom line is, those are the two main metrics you need to kind of be familiar with as we kind of discuss some of his data, and then the rest of them will be pretty self-explanatory in terms of the data we're going to be talking about. The only thing you really need to remember is that all the numbers I'm going to be discussing are normalized in percentile scores. So if you just think of it that way, this is their scores normalized. That way, I'm not talking about 60% completion percentage. I'm talking about what 60% means compared to all the quarterbacks, essentially. So with that out of the way, let's get into Dak Prescott in terms of what he looked like in high school and college coming out. Starting with Dak Prescott in high school and college, he had a 88.10 high school production score, which based on my data, 100% of multiple Pro Bowl quarterbacks since the 2007 NFL draft class had at least an 84 or higher when it came to their high school production score. Dak Prescott again had an 88.10. So he pretty much passed the threshold for Pro Bowl quarterbacks coming out of high school. On top of that, his FBS quarterback score was a 97.31 out of 100. 97.31. And based on my data as well, the Pro Bowl quarterback threshold for quarterbacks coming out of college is at least an 80. The All-Pro threshold is about a 90, and Dak Prescott had a 97.31 score. So essentially what I'm saying is, as a data guy, if I was, I did a bunch of data back then. I did not do a lot of quarterback metrics back then in that draft class, unfortunately. A lot of the quarterback data is really just centered around the last draft class. But if I was doing data back then, I would have been telling you Dak Prescott should be a top 3 to the top quarterback taken in that class, because he hit every single threshold. He hit the high school production threshold, he hit the college production threshold, and out of that class, if you've seen the previous video on that class, he should have been amongst that discussion as a first-round quarterback in that class based on data. So it should not be a fluke that Dak Prescott performed as well as he did, because based on what he looked like coming out, he was basically a Pro Bowl quarterback. He hit every single threshold indicative of a Pro Bowl quarterback. It's just for reasons, DUI perhaps, all these other sort of things, he kind of fell a bit in people's minds. And also people just kind of ignored him too. People just kind of went, oh yeah, Dak Prescott, he's not good, so they didn't bother to evaluate him properly. Who knows? In terms of why film guys didn't really value Dak Prescott the way they should have. But based on his data, he's doing fine. Dak Prescott is doing perfect in terms of data. Then, of course, we get to what Dak Prescott looks like when you look at his actual production, NFL level, which was amazing. When you look at Dak Prescott's production at the NFL level, his touchdown to interception ratio based on a 10-year sample was a 97.51 score out of 100. Based on the average score of 90 percentile or higher wins, which is 91.29, he pretty much, blew that out of the water. His completion percentage compared to his peers was a 92.21 out of 100 based on a 10-year sample. His yards per attempt was a 88.16 out of 100 based on a 10-year sample. His adjusted yards per attempt was a 92.83 compared to his peers, and his quarterback rating was a 93.46 out of 100 compared to his peers. And his win percentile, of course, was a 97.49 out of 100, which is also great. And when you look at it in terms of the average quarterback stats that are put up by quarterbacks who win 90 percentile or higher in terms of wins, he was above all those marks. He pretty much hit all those marks and was above the average when it comes to the types of stats you need to put up to have a 90 percentile or higher year. And not only that, when you look at his production compared to quarterbacks that were 23 years old, which is when he played, he is right below Dan Marino. And this is all the way back to the 1958 NFL draft class. But the bottom line is based on Dak Prescott's season as a 23-year-old quarterback, he pretty much performed the same way that Dan Marino performed in 1984, pretty much the same way that Dante Culpepper performed in 2000, Ben Roethlisberger in 2005, Peyton Manning in 1999, Matthew Stafford in 2011, Milt Plum in Cleveland, Bernie Kosar, Matt Ryan, and Marcus Mariota. Of course, I just put those last guys in there just to kind of give you the guys that were above average in terms of their overall production. But the bottom line is Dak Prescott, from a historical standpoint, is with a lot of elite football players. And even though Dante Culpepper didn't have the best career ever, in terms of how it ended, he was pretty dang good for those first couple years in Minnesota. So what you should conclude based on Dak Prescott's rookie season is it was pretty dang good. It was really, really, really impressive when you look at his year in question. And now that that's out of the way, which is probably not, but there are going to be people who are going to go, okay, hold on a second here, bro. Hold on, bro. What about the fact that he was in a run-first offense? Because that's the main thing that people talk about a lot with Dak Prescott is, oh, he was in a run-heavy offense, and his offensive line was great, and all that kind of stuff. Well, when you actually look at Dak Prescott, what I basically did here, and this is another chart, it adds in third down percentage. So the higher percentage you have in terms of success on third downs, the higher percentage in terms of fourth down, and of course what your run percentage is basically compared to your peers. So the teams that have higher run percentage in terms of the plays that they call score higher on this. So I looked at all the quarterbacks who had really, really good production like Dak Prescott, but also were on teams where they had the highest sort of run percentage, because obviously the Dallas Cowboys were a team that had Ezekiel Elliott. They ran the ball a lot, and they didn't pass as much compared to their peers, which should be evident. When you look at Dak Prescott's production in those areas, you'll see some guys in here that are kind of fluky guys. Robert Griffin III, is here. Tyrod Taylor's here. Nick Foles is here. These are guys who didn't quite, end up doing very well overall when you look at their careers. But the one thing that Dak Prescott has above guys like Nick Foles, above guys like Tyrod Taylor and Robert Griffin III, is he has a impressive third down percentage. His third down percentage was a 73.98 compared to his peers since 2007, meaning that, again, he had an above average. When it came to third down, he was above average when it came to completing plays on third down that he had to complete as a quarterback. And that's really good. That's what separates him from Robert Griffin III, from Tyrod Taylor, from Nick Foles, is that he is someone who, when he needed to make the play, when Ezekiel Elliott wasn't running the football to get a first down, when Dak Prescott had to get that third down play done, that had to complete that third down play, Dak Prescott was doing that. He was completing that play. And this is also why Dak Prescott, in many ways, if you just look at him here, he compares a lot more favorably to guys like Russell Wilson than the guys that are below him in terms of run-heavy offenses. He compares better than even Alex Smith, who Alex Smith is on here, and he had a terrible run, third down percentage. So despite what people say about Dak Prescott, saying that he was on this offensive line that was amazing and his running back was amazing, the truest mark of a quarterback, maybe not the truest mark, but the main thing that people always talk about with quarterbacks is their ability to make plays when they need to make a play, when they have to get a first down, when it's third and they have to get that first down. Dak Prescott was doing that above average, despite all the help that he had in terms of offensive line and running back, which, as you can see here, puts him into a different category of players, especially considering that he was 23 years old when he did this. He pretty much was like Russell Wilson was in 2012, excuse me. So actually was better than Russell Wilson in terms of his rookie season. So all I'm really trying to say here is that when you look at Dak Prescott at every angle, when you look at how he performed just stats-wise compared to every single winning team, he performed exceptionally well. When you look at him compared to his peers as a 23-year-old, he looks very good in terms of the comparables, in terms of the quarterbacks that he's around as a 23-year-old quarterback. And then when you actually look at the breakdowns in terms of the fact that he was on a run-heavy offense compared to his peers, but still had a very high third down percentage, I think we should be taking Dak Prescott a heck of a lot more seriously than the scouts that missed on him. And I'm not denying that the NFL done goofed on Dak Prescott, and I'm sure NFL people are kicking themselves because they missed on him, or at the very least because the NFL in many ways is a sort of attitude of, I never miss on players and there's no way I could miss on them, and I'm infallible, and yeah, he was successful, but he won't be successful in the future because I'm a great evaluator. Based on the data, the NFL done goofed on Dak Prescott. They done messed up. And I'm super excited about what his future is in the NFL. He is a quarterback who, coming out of college, hit every single threshold you're looking for in terms of, great play, and then actually comes in the NFL and has one of the best rookie seasons ever. And it's not even like our RG3 thing, because RG3 was not great on third downs, while Dak Prescott is really good on third down. So there's a lot more legitimacy to Dak Prescott's rookie season compared to other rookie seasons that were really great and then just kind of fizzled out. So bottom line is, Dak Prescott is a quarterback that everybody should be taking a heck of a lot more seriously. and is someone that I think you should be very excited about in the future in terms of how he improves as a passer and how this offense and this team improves in the future. So again, my name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.